Richard Branson says that public speaking and presenting skills are by far the most important skill anyone needs to succeed. As a manager, a leader, or a business owner in the modern world, this is definitely much needed right now. In this training, I'm going to give you the most important foundations you need to deliver more impactful presentations without hours and hours of rehearsing. And I've made it super actionable, so literally if you have a presentation tomorrow, you can change it, implement this, and you will see much better results. So get your notebook and your pen out, let's go.
Who here has to speak to their client or prospect in order to close a deal? Let's do that? Okay, cool. And who has to show a presentation, a pitch of some sort or a demo to go through it? Okay, cool. Majority of you. Also raise your hand if you feel confident that you can easily deliver a keynote for like an hour, let's say, on your business topic or on a topic that you need to speak about without much prep and still keep the audience engaged. Many proposals and talks end up being about an hour or so, right? To close deals, sales calls, things like that. And yet, majority of us tend to not be feeling confident that we can just do it without much prep. So that's the problem we're going to try and alleviate today. Okay? I'm going to give you some basics. Here's the 3 things that we're going to walk away with. First, they're going to give you a structure that you're going to use for your proposals, pitches, whatever else you want. That's going to help you to take people through a journey without getting lost. We're going to do some visuals that you can use for interest, and I'll cover what that means in a minute. And then finally, you're going to have delivery. So how are you going to speak to people in order to keep them engaged throughout the whole thing? If I lose you, let me know. We should rewrite that last bit then. A little bit about me. So I have a background from management consulting. I worked at EY, this thing here. And since then, I was like, okay, somebody told me at that point that I could define my own career. And I was naive enough to say, yeah, cool, I'll do that. So I started doing that, kind of trailblazing through it. And over time, I won a few awards. I was speaking in the school, and then speaking at stages later on in front of audiences. And since then, I've gone on to work with multiple different companies. Most of this has me presenting on pretty much a daily basis. Right? Everything I do is about workshops, improving people's processes, improving their team relationships. So hopefully, I know a thing or two about delivering presentations, which you can copy. It's actually based off of what people will feel and get reflected by rather than what it is that you're just saying. So for you guys, when you're going into your presentation, so you gotta think about like, what is it that they want out of this interaction? The better you can know your audience, the better you can make something that's gonna be connected to them. So for example, if I'm going to a networking event with small businesses like here, I'm gonna say, cool, like, I work with small businesses and my primary offering is a workshop, a 3-day workshop that I can deliver X result for. If I'm working with bigger companies, I will then pitch my other offering to say, I have team transformation projects. For you guys, if you think about, okay, well, if you know your audience, how can you tailor that message to them? So that's the start of it. Okay? If you know your audience, you're going to be able to communicate back. And here's the structure that you're going to use. And this is the same structure if you're going to be presenting in a team, if you're going to be presenting to a client, prospect, whatever it is, you can use this structure and it's going to hit home. Tested it multiple times. Also taught other people in different industries the same thing, and it has worked. Okay? If it doesn't work for you, let me know. We can figure out why not. So, the SPAN framework. Pretty easy to remember. The SPAN, hence bridge. Of course, it's an acronym. First one is situation. How are you going to lay the land out? Right? In the beginning, I asked you guys questions. We figured out where we were today. So, what is the situation that you're going to be presenting to your clients? What is their ultimate problem that you can solve in the presentation, right? And the reason it's structured in this way is because this is a large thing that you're going to go wide, and then you can go narrow to pinpoint the singular problem, hopefully, that you can solve during that time. If it's a prospect presentation that you're going to talk to, what is their singular problem, their main, most important problem? Usually people go in with, I've got a multitude of different things we're going to solve today. How many of you have seen an agenda that's got like 50 different things on point? Like, we're going to cover this, we're going to cover that, we're going to cover this. And you're like, I'm already asleep. I don't know what to do. Right? So you're going to have the most important thing there that's going to resonate with them. The majority of your time is going to be spent on answer. Not how you got to the answer. So most of the time, people will go through a chronological order, right? Who's seen the presentation where people are like, so yeah, in the beginning, I looked at this data, then I looked at this data, here's the table I sifted through, and now this is the answer. You don't want to do that, no one cares, unfortunately. So you just want to get to the crux, right? What is the most important thing? The solution to their problem. And of course, if you're doing a sales call, it's a slightly longer process where you want to be here a bit longer to get them into the mood, and then you can give the solution. But if you're pitching to a client or a team, no one wants to be in meetings. So we did this thing when I was at Sky. We introduced 10-minute meetings. So how can you deliver all of the message that you'd otherwise have in a 1-hour meeting in 10 minutes, right? If you follow this, you get there pretty quickly. Because if people have follow-up questions, they can ask you, and they will. And finally, you have to always have next steps on CTA, call to action. Most of the time, you finish a meeting and you're like, I could have been at home. That could have been an email. Why did I get this? Why do I have to be in this thing? Zoom calls, camera off, mic off, TV on. You don't want people to be in that position, right? So, but you guys think about it, when you're speaking to your clients or teams, same thing. This thing, a lot of people miss. Signposting. How many of you do signposting in your presentations? Okay, one. So when you're going through things, especially if it's a long one, right? If you're doing a 1-hour proposal, whatever it is, how do people know how far along you are? Think about when you're saying, who's taking a survey? Anyone? Yeah, most of you. And there's a research that shows that there's more completion rate when they have a progress bar in the bottom. Just by putting it there. The survey doesn't have to change in length. Progress bar, more closing rates. Uber, they introduced that tracking time where you know how far away your ride is to solve that exact problem. If you have the same thing, tell people how far along you are. So you know we're doing 3 things, right, today. Talking about the structure, the delivery, and then the visuals. So you'll see those slides come up, because then you will know exactly where we are in the slide. You know what I mean? Visuals. We're not going to visuals. Visual-wise, super simple. People have seen presentations, right? And you don't have to admit if you do this, but a lot of stuff on it. A lot of stuff. This is an uber simple slide. You would probably not have this in real life, right? When you're doing a lot of long presentations, you don't really want to have something this simple. Unless you know your topic a lot, then you can just easily talk through it without having to look at the slides. Most of the time, people have bullet points, right? Each click comes a new bullet point. You look at there, what do bullet points say? Oh yeah, I'm going to talk about this. We're all guilty of it, but we don't want to do that. So instead, what you want to do is follow this principle, okay? This is a principle that I've kind of tested. This is also a principle from the Death by PowerPoint, Guy Kawasaki. If anybody doesn't know that, watch a video, very old, very good. You can have 7 lines maximum on a slide. Doesn't matter where, what, any situation you're presenting into, 7 lines. 7 words per line. And in any given slide, you want to have 3 elements most. So this is, if you're talking about 3 topics, like 3 things, you talk about those 3 things. Maybe it's 3 colors, maybe it's 3 core messages, whatever it is. People like odd numbers for some reason. So 3, 5, 7, things like that work quite well. As you can see, there are 3 things on this slide. And 3 colors. One exception to this rule is titles. Reason being, 2 things that you've probably, maybe you've heard about this, I don't know. Who's heard of vertical and horizontal alignment? You have? Cool, that's good. So when you're preparing slides, okay, you can storyboard. Who knows storyboarding? Yeah, a couple of you. So when you storyboard, I mean, yeah, definitely. So when you're storyboarding for slides, you can look at the little, like 4 little icons on the bottom. If you press that, you can see how the whole thing flows. So basically, you want to be able to read the titles across all of the slides, and the whole story should make sense. If you go from the start to the end, it should make sense. Second thing is, vertical alignment means individually a slide, standalone, should do a good job as explaining what that slide is about. And most people, what they do is include the majority of their information in the slide here, which means most people will be reading that. Right? Like how many of you seen it? Like there's tiny information somewhere, and like someone in the back is like, what did I say? They've lost you. Right? No one's hearing what you're talking about. And especially when you're not reading what's there, it's a disconnect, so your brain's confused, it can't take in anything. When you are reading something on there, your brain's bored and it can't take anything. So both are bad. So titles, if you can have it, like I tend to like 2 lines for my title. I mean, it's usually quite big, so you can't put that many words in there, but it explains a bit more of what's happening. So if someone's going to read just that little bit, they should know what I'm talking about in this whole slide. Here's an example of how you can change things. If you're going to have bullet points, think about how you can turn it into a little framework. You don't have to be a graphic design genius. There are a few here, so you can use them to help you out if you want. But instead of you putting bullet points down, think about how you can just turn this into something a little bit more visually appealing. It doesn't have to be this. It can be anything that you like. But have fewer words here. If you can count the numbers here, there'll be less than 7. Okay? But if you can do that, it will make your life a lot easier. And people will understand what you're talking about a lot better. And so they don't have to keep going for this. Do delivery for impact. And I'm going to need a little more volunteer for this. Tell us, 30 seconds or less, what you did in the weekend. Even if it's like chilling. Make it. You don't have to make it interesting. Just
okay. 30 seconds. Yeah.
30 seconds.
I went to a garden party on Sunday. I got very drunk. Nice weather. Caught up with some friends, and it was nice to do that. But I felt terrible the next day. Yeah.
Amazing. That was less than 30 seconds. So it was great. Okay. So everybody happy with what Warren just said? Okay. Warren, please could you repeat what you said, but this time I want you to basically smile a bit more and do this with your hands. That's it. Nothing else. You can do it to rhythm, you can do whatever you like, but just do that. That's 30 seconds.
On Sunday, I went to a garden party. Very nice. Everybody got dressed up. Lots of nice food and drink. And we did a bit of that, a bit of eating, and it was lovely. The sun came out, and but we got very drunk from that hangover. So.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Big round of applause. Who thought the second delivery was a bit better? So, simple research basically shows that if you smile, your energy is just a lot higher. Warren gave us more details in the second one with the food and everybody else also getting drunk other than just Warren getting drunk. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And by using your hands, you're kind of inviting the audience into your space a bit more. So if you're ever doing an in-person one, you can do that. If you're doing it on Zoom, exactly the same principle works. But here's another trick on Zoom that works really well. So I'm going to flip the slide. You have 1 second. Just look at the slide. And I'm going to ask you a simple question. What do you remember from the slide? Okay? 1 second. Okay. What did you see?
Lady.
Lady?
Be mindful.
Being mindful. Yep. Nice. Great. Okay. So the majority of you said lady, which is good. That was a bit of a cheat though. Other things I've learned. But another thing with research, right? Most people remember faces. So when you're on Zoom, you can't use your body language as much, so you lose 70% of your communication ability, which means you need to do something else to keep people's attention. And that's where the whole face thing comes in. See, Warren started smiling, most of you started smiling. Faces, people remember. I gave you 1 second, there's a million other things happening in this picture, and most of you picked up the lady. So when you're on Zoom, think about what kind of expression you're bringing with it. Especially when you're presenting, a lot of people will feed off your energy when they're sitting there like, yeah, welcome to this meeting. I know it's a Friday, everybody wants to go home, but I'll take 2.5 hours of your time, right? It doesn't happen. So the other thing is, we all have visual and vocal images. Yes, visual makes sense. Visual to wearing makes a difference. Vocal is other things as well. So as we said, body language makes sense, facial expression, right? These are things that everybody kind of knows about. But how quickly you speak. See, when Warren was smiling, his speech sped up a little bit, but it also became a lot more enthusiastic, right? His intonation and pitch varied. So this is an order of importance of how much something has an effect on somebody else. So if you are presenting in a live situation, what you're wearing is the first thing people are going to judge you on, and then it's going to be your body language and expression. So if you're standing like this, people are going to think you don't care, therefore they also don't care. So if you're talking to your clients, especially when you're in a situation where it's a proposal, you might be feeling a little bit nervous, hands in pocket, becomes dangerous because they also feel nervous. Something I used a lot when I was doing property stuff. I had no experience other than a little bit of training I went to, so I had to bring a little bit more pizzazz to speak to investors to try and get them to understand that I know what I'm talking about. So this is basically exactly what I did. Right? I just walked up to them and did not stand like this to talk about whatever I'm talking about. Instead, talk like this. Open hands, by the way. Good. One last before we finish up, because you guys have been so good. This, if you want to become better at these things, basically the framework. Most people, when they have to be better at presenting, proposals, pitching, whatever, they tend to go straight to it. There's a lot of public speaking training that are around. I even have one, where they just teach you about how to do public speaking stuff. Whereas I don't focus much on that because I think everybody has a natural speaking ability. If not, your business owners, you have to. You need to focus on how your mindset works, like what kind of energy you're bringing into that team meeting, calls, clients, whatever it is you're doing. Next tier above from that is your confidence. these two obviously are linked, but if you have confidence, people will do that. In consulting, we had a joke saying that you say anything with enough conviction, people will believe you. More often than not, they did. Finally, communication. So there's a lot of communication training, especially if you want to do like assertive communication skills. In my personal opinion, that is the best way to speak because you get across your messages a lot more clearly to people. And finally, if you can master all these things, presenting is a cake. For people who are afraid of speaking in front of big crowds, voice gets dry, throat gets a bit murky, the cough a bit, all that kind of stuff, you will see all those things going down when we do this. When we do public speaking training with us, we kind of do all these things, and people do end up presenting a lot more easily just because they've had the other foundations that's built into them. So the rest becomes easier. So you never have to look at stuff to read through. You never have to go and look at notes as you're speaking. You never have to forget your train of thought because you've memorized everything and you don't know where it went. Change things. By the way, here's how I actually did it today. Follow this exact framework. So in case you didn't catch it as we went on, I'll break it down. Common ground, at the beginning. We got people to raise their hands. Multiple ways you can do that. A lot of people, when they're doing a big talk, they'll start with like a startling fact. 60% of people did this. Did you know 80% of all stats are made up? Including that one. Next, you want to, this is the most crucial thing. If you take one thing from this whole thing, obviously this structure is the most important thing, but the problem that you're going to do, if you can articulate it into a statement, it is the best thing. Because the person you're talking to will relate to that, agree, and then now you're on the same page. If they don't agree, you know you can go back and see what's happening. So here's the answer. For today, we had the SPAN framework, the slide design I talked about, and then the self-image we will go through. Those are answers for how you can do this. Yeah, people agree? If we can have a good framework that people can follow, we have good slide design, they don't get bored, and then we can have self-image, so people can relate to you, you can deliver impressive presentations. True story. Don't believe me. Try it out. Let me know. And now we have the next steps. This is it. For me, you can follow me and you can ask me any questions you want. That's it. Right? So if you want to do that, we're moving this to Udemy. So I used to deliver it on Facebook and things, and it was paid for. And now moving it to Udemy to make it paid for there because I don't have time to physically deliver it myself anymore. It's like, I don't know, 2 hours plus of the course that goes through the whole end-to-end of how you can present better, whether it's for public speaking purposes or it's for presenting for your teams. And it goes through the basics of the slide design as well as the top end of how you can communicate assertively. There's also examples of how you can do it in your relationship. Sometimes it helps. Probably about 200 people or so who've gone through this course and they like it, so I'm moving it to Udemy. So if you want to have any questions, then please follow me over there. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'm open to it now.
Make sure to sign up to the public speaking course if you haven't already. The link is in the description below and in the pinned first comment. If you're a manager, a leader, or a business owner in the current world, then this is exactly what you need. It's going to cover the A to Z of presenting and public speaking, so go through the course, you're going to love it. Now you're probably wondering, what are the other secrets you need to know to be successful in the current world? Well, in this video, I interview a multi-millionaire who has gone from being homeless to building a $1.2 billion company in just 6 years. So check that out. And by the way, while you're there, subscribe to this channel so you can see more of this sort of content and get your leadership skills to the next level. I will see you in the next one.